US President Donald Trump says there is a good chance of a deal to end the war after Ukrainian negotiators meet US officials in Florida. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says more work required.
Protests erupt at various places in Israel after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asks President Isaac Herzog for a pardon over corruption cases he has been battling.
Donald Trump says US would continue to tighten immigration laws and there could be no asylum for some nations for a long time.
A new report says revenues from sales of weapons and military services by the 100 largest global arms producing companies reached a record $679 billion in 2024.
Winter session of the Indian Parliament to begin today with several key legislations on the agenda. Prime Minister Modi to brief the media ahead of the session.
OPEC decides to keep its current oil output unchanged during January-March 2026, keeping voluntary production cuts in place as the group slows its push to regain market share amid fears of a looming supply glut. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump has said that there was a good chance of a deal to end the war in Ukraine after the latest U.S. negotiations with Kyiv.
And this as his envoy prepares to travel to Russia. We're speaking of Steve Witkoff here for a follow-up talks. Now, his statement came hours after Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Ukrainian officials and expressed optimism about progress despite challenges enduring ending the more than 3-year-long war.
On what took place in South Florida today, those talks between the U.S. and the Ukrainians?
Well, they're going along, and they're going along well. We want to stop people from being killed. Doesn't have much to do with us, but I'd like to see if we could save a lot of souls. A lot of people are being killed. Last month, we had 27,000 people killed in that ridiculous war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, were also present representing the U.S. side. The Sunday talks took place near Miami at a private club developed by Witkoff's real estate business, who is also expected to meet Russian counterparts later this week.
Now, before the talks, Marco Rubio said that the aim is to create a pathway that leaves Ukraine sovereign and independent. With the discussions follow roughly 2 weeks of negotiations that began with a U.S. blueprint for peace. The plan was initially criticized for favoring Russia, which started the Ukraine conflict with the 2022 invasion.
It's about also the terms that set up Ukraine for long-term prosperity. I thought we started laying the groundwork for that, most certainly in Geneva. I think we continued that work in our communications throughout the week. I think we built on that again today, but there's more work to be done.
We were discussing about the future of Ukraine. We discussed all the important matters that are important for Ukraine, for Ukrainian people, and U.S. was super supportive. We already had a successful meeting in Geneva, and today we continued this success. So at the moment, this meeting was productive and successful. On the later stages, hopefully, we will keep you updated.
Amidst the claims of progress, AFP media, citing its source in the Ukrainian delegation, said that ongoing U.S.-Ukraine talks were not easy. According to AFP, the Kyiv delegation told the process is not easy because the search for formulations and solutions will continue, although they added that the exchanges had nevertheless been constructive.
An initial 28-point U.S. proposal, allegedly drafted without inputs from Ukraine or its European allies, would have required Kiev to withdraw and recognize the Donetsk, Crimea and Luhansk regions as Russian territory. And the proposal, however, was pared back to original draft following criticism from Kiev and Europe, but the current contents remain unclear.
All right. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that all issues discussed in Florida talks had clear focus on ensuring Ukraine's sovereignty and national interests. Ukraine's leadership, facing a domestic political crisis fueled by a probe into major graft in the energy sector, is seeking to push back on Moscow-friendly terms as Russian forces grind forward along the front lines of the war.
Now, ahead of the Florida talks, Russian forces targeted Ukraine's capital and the region for 2 nights in a row as they advanced on the front line. On Saturday, a drone attack in the outskirts of Kiev killed 1 person and wounded 11.
Now, as earlier, Ukraine's security service released the videos showing attacks on 2 oil tankers in the Black Sea that it believed were covertly transporting sanctioned Russian oil. Ukraine was also condemned by Kazakhstan, which told Ukraine to stop attacking terminal of the Caspian pipeline consortium, which handles more than 1% of global oil.
The United States is seeing a sharp turn in how the Trump administration treats dreamers.
These are the hundreds of thousands of young immigrants protected under the Obama-era Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. For years, DACA provided a shield against deportation for those brought to the U.S. as children. It allowed them to work legally and renew their status every 2 years. Enforcement actions against them were rare, and when their status was in jeopardy, they were usually given advance notice and a chance to contest it. But that landscape is now changing. The Trump administration has expanded immigration vetting, including scrutinizing social media activity across visa, green card, and citizenship applications. That same approach is now being applied to DACA recipients, with federal agents making arrests even when individuals work valid work permits.
Now, the Trump administration argues that the DACA was never provided legal status or absolute protection from removal. It said recipients can lose coverage for criminal offenses or perceived security risks, but advocacy groups say the net is being cast far beyond those categories, pointing to a rising number of detentions. It's a process they describe as abrupt, opaque, and lacking basic notice. This shift comes as DACA faces new legal and regulatory pressures. A Fifth Circuit ruling could block work permits for recipients in Texas.
The new federal rules bar DACA holders from obtaining commercial driver's licenses. 19 states have restricted their access to health coverage, and an in-state tuition for immigrant students is shrinking as the Justice Department sues states over education policies.
Now, the result is a program still technically in place but steadily being narrowed. Advocates say it is not a direct repeal but a gradual dismantling. It is a series of policy cuts that weaken work access, limit benefits, and make deportation far more likely.
The White House has rolled out a new section on its official website.
The website calls out media outlets and journalists that it accuses of biased and misleading coverage. The page is titled Misleading, Biased, Exposed, and it singles out the Boston Globe, CBS News, and The Independent as media offenders of the week, quote unquote. Now, the website accuses them of misrepresenting Trump's comments about 6 Democratic lawmakers who shared a video urging troops not to follow illegal orders.
Now, this comes after Trump accused Democrats of seditious behavior, punishable by death, and reposted a statement that included the phrase, "hang them." The site claims that all of Trump's orders are lawful. The White House says Trump wants those lawmakers held accountable.
The website also features an offender hall of shame, listing the Washington Post, CBS News, CNN, and MSNBC. Visitors can search articles and see which reporters wrote them. Each story is explained and categorized under labels such as lie, omission of context, or left-wing lunacy. Now, the page also features a leaderboard of news sites the administration claims reported stories incorrectly.
Where currently the Washington Post leads the list, followed by MSNBC and CBS News. Other outlets listed for bias or misinformation include the Associated Press, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Politico, and Axios. The Trump administration's ongoing clash with media organizations has become more personal. Now, in recent weeks, Trump has been criticized for making derogatory remarks about female journalists.
Staying on with updates from the Caribbean, U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed that he recently spoke with Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro.
And this comes amid soaring tensions between the two countries. The U.S. is piling the pressure with a major military buildup in the Caribbean and an ominous warning from Trump that Venezuelan airspace is closed.
Now, on Saturday, Trump said that the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela should be considered closed in its entirety. Since then, 6 airlines have cancelled services to Venezuela, but the airport in Caracas was functioning as usual. When asked whether his comments meant that strikes against Venezuela were imminent, Trump said, "Don't read anything into it."
Mr. President, on Venezuela, can you tell us more about why the airspace above Venezuela should be considered closed?
Because we consider Venezuela to be not a very friendly country. They sent millions of people, really, and probably a number in excess of that. And a lot of those people shouldn't be in our country, from jails, from gangs, from drug dealers, from all of the people that came into our country shouldn't have been in our country, causing a lot of problems.
Does your warning
and drugs.
Does your warning mean that an airstrike is imminent, or should we not read it that way?
Don't read anything into it.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit
No,
about
I can't
it?
do that.
Mr.
Would you say it went well?
I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call. Yeah.
Now, the New York Times reported that Trump and Maduro had discussed a possible meeting, while the Wall Street Journal said that the conversation also included conditions of amnesty if Maduro were to step down.
The revelation of this phone call comes as American troops are now deployed across the Caribbean as part of Operation Southern Spear. Washington says that it is part of the fight against drugs. Caracas calls it preparations for an attack. U.S. troops have carried out at least 21 strikes on alleged drug trafficking vessels in the Caribbean and off the Pacific coast of Latin America since the month of September, and these strikes have resulted in 83 reported fatalities.
Now, Venezuela's National Assembly will form a special commission to investigate the deadly strikes. The investigation would look into a Washington Post report that said U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered all people aboard one of the boats to be killed during a strike in September. The report said a second strike was then carried out to kill 2 survivors.
The head of Venezuela's legislature, Jorge Rodriguez, said he met on Sunday with relatives of Venezuelans killed in the strikes. Talking about the Hegseth order, he said, I quote here, "If a war had been declared and led to such killings, we would be talking about war crimes."
Now, Hegseth has already dismissed the reporting as fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory. President Trump was also asked about the report. This is what he said.
Can you talk a little bit about the strikes and the controversy around Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth?
I don't know anything about it. He said he did not say that, and I believe him 100%.
So you don't know if there was
You're talking about the two men?
the second strike to kill the two men.
No, he said he didn't do it. He said he never said
Would
it.
you be okay with that if he did?
He said he didn't do it, so I don't have to make that decision.
And over in West Asia, there is a political earthquake in Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu has formally asked for a presidential pardon.
And it's a move that could short-circuit years of corruption trials and send Israel into a new phase of political turbulence. Netanyahu says the cases against him are tearing the country apart, arguing that criminal proceedings are hindering his ability to govern. But he has made no admission of guilt.
My lawyers submitted a request for a pardon to the President of the state today. I expect that all those who place the good of the country above all else will support this step. I took into account President Trump's repeated appeals to the President of the state. President Trump has called for the immediate termination of the trial so that I can, together with him, further advance vital interests shared by Israel and the United States.
And outside President Isaac Herzog's private residence in Tel Aviv, protests swelled. Demonstrators rallied through the day, urging the president not to grant a pardon.
Now, one sign read, 2,000 Israelis cry out from their graves for a state commission of inquiry into October 7, a direct rebuke of Netanyahu and a call for accountability beyond the courtroom.
Israel's opposition leader, Yair Lapid, is also turning up the pressure. In a sharp video statement, he urged President Herzog to reject the request unless Netanyahu admits guilt, expresses remorse and retires from politics altogether.
From here I call on President Herzog. You cannot pardon him without an admission of guilt, an expression of remorse, and an immediate retirement from the political life.
Herzog's office confirms a pardon request has been received and will be reviewed according to standard procedure. But traditionally, pardons in Israel come only after conviction and only after defendants acknowledge their crimes. Netanyahu has done neither yet. And Pope Leo XIV has landed in Beirut to a warm reception from officials and residents alike.
Along the airport road, Hezbollah supporters took a leading role in greeting him as crowds filled the capital. As his convoy traveled through Beirut's southern suburbs, Hezbollah's Imam al-Mahdi, scouts and local residents, they lined the streets to greet him. The motorcade passed through Dahieh, a Hezbollah stronghold, which was hit hard by Israeli raids over the past 2 years. Supporters waved portraits of the Pope alongside images of slain Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and hoisted Hezbollah flags.
This day is very important not only for Christians. I'd also like to make it clear to people that this is Lebanon, coexistence, and that on this very important day, everyone is together, standing to show the world that this is Lebanon and this is the Lebanese people, all of us together, loving one another.
Now, at the airport, key leaders including President Joseph Aoun, Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, Parliament Speaker Nabi Berri formally welcomed the Pope.
Thousands stood along the route from the airport to Babda Palace, where Pope Leo held his first meeting with President Aoun. The Al-Mahdi scouts led a well-organized reception, which Hezbollah called a sign of deep respect and a message of coexistence.
Thousands of scout members will deploy along the bridge leading to the presidential palace. We are taking part in welcoming the Pope to reaffirm coexistence and national unity.
Now, this marks the Pope's first visit to Lebanon and the first papal trip since 2012. Lebanon is the second stop on Pope Leo's first trip outside Italy and the Vatican since his election in May. He chose Lebanon partly to fulfill a wish of his predecessor, Pope Francis. Previously, Pope Francis intended to visit Lebanon but was held back by health issues and security concerns.
An Austrian family is lighting up the holiday season in a spectacular manner.
The Goldhuber family has transformed their entire estate into a dazzling Christmas wonderland. Nearly 1 million lights, hundreds of inflatable figures attract thousands of visitors each year to this estate. Take a look at this report for more. Now it's time for a very short break on World DNA, but don't go anywhere. On the other side, torrential rains and landslides have ravaged Indonesia, Thailand and Malaysia, claiming hundreds of lives and displacing thousands. We'll get you all the latest on that story on the other side.
A Bloomberg news report has revealed that India plans to start discussions towards the purchase of Russian fighter jets and a missile defense shield during President Vladimir Putin's visit this week.
Get ready for the biggest sustainability stage, a 5-hour on-ground event bringing together leaders, innovators, and visionaries to reshape the path ahead. Mission Sustainability 2025. Discuss and deliberate on the issues that matter. 5 power-packed sessions and a special address by Union Minister of Road Transport and Highways of India, Nitin Gadkari. Each conversation, each idea, each commitment brings us closer to make sustainability a way of life. Be a part of the change. Mission Sustainability 2025, Season 3. No action, not an option.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
Sustainability is no longer a choice, it's a responsibility. Our needs are endless, but our planet's resources are not. Every decision we make today shapes the world we leave behind tomorrow. With the 3rd edition of Mission Sustainability, WION addresses key issues, focusing on minimizing harm and ensuring the planet can meet the needs of future generations. Through powerful panel discussions, we explore 5 urgent pillars of sustainability: the plastic pollution problem, recycling, waste management, electric vehicles, and alternative energy models of sustainability. Join us as we chart a future built on responsibility, innovation, and hope. Mission Sustainability Conclave 2025, because the planet can't wait. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Hi, I'm Amit Tambaria, Managing Director of Opera Energy. India is moving aggressively toward its vision of 500 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. And Opera Energy is proud to support this national mission as a company motto is leading the renewable energy revolutions. With our innovative wind, solar and battery energy solutions that help industries transition to green, clean and reliable power solutions. Sustainability is a topic that is very close to my heart. Join me on Mission Sustainability on December 2nd, only on WION World is a World. Remember, no action is not an option.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
As responsible individuals, we must take initiative in our own everyday lives. Maybe the next time you see a plastic bottle, you should consciously decide not to use it. Or maybe the next time you realize your children are not switching off the lights or the fans, you come up with a quirky ways to teach them the importance of conserving resources. These steps might sound small, but I assure you, they will have a notable impact. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to WION for hosting Mission Sustainability. Let's act before it gets too late. Namaskar, Jai Hind.
Welcome back. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss on this side of the show. Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's start with the headlines.
More than 900 people have died in devastating floods and landslides across the south of Asia. Authorities in Sri Lanka, Indonesia and Thailand are racing to clear debris and find hundreds of missing people.
Imran Khan supporters protest at Pakistani embassy in Washington, D.C., demanding government to restore access to the jailed former Prime Minister.
Venezuela's National Assembly to investigate U.S. strikes on alleged drug boats. The investigation would look into a report that said U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered all survivors aboard one of the boats to be killed during a strike in September.
Trump says there is a good chance of a deal to end the war after Ukrainian negotiators meet U.S. officials in Florida. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says more work is required.
Protests erupt at various places in Israel after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asks President Isaac Herzog for a pardon over corruption cases he has been battling.
Donald Trump says US would continue to tighten immigration laws and there could be no asylum for some nations for a long time.
A new report says revenues from sales of weapons and military services by the 100 largest global arms producing companies reached a record $679 billion in 2024.
President Trump said he has made his choice for the next chair of the Federal Reserve. Trump also made it clear that he expects his nomination to deliver interest rate cuts. Trump and the current Fed boss, Jerome Powell, have been at loggerheads on interest rates.
Elon Musk says that working will be optional in less than 20 years. He says advancement in AI and robotics will bring us to a point where people do not have to work at all. Now, torrential rains and landslides have ravaged Indonesia, Thailand and Malaysia, claiming hundreds of lives and displacing thousands.
The climate tragedy in Southeast and South Asia has killed 900 people so far. The death toll is expected to rise even further, and there are reports of widespread destruction and damage to infrastructure across the three nations.
Now, Sri Lanka has declared a state of emergency as the floods and landslides triggered by Cyclone Ditwa have claimed at least 334 lives. President Anil Kumar Dissanayake stated that the recovery will take time as the country is facing the most challenging natural disaster in its history.
The Indian Air Force, in close coordination with Sri Lankan authorities, carried out major rescue and evacuation operations in the landslide-affected Kotmale region of Sri Lanka, which remains completely cut off by road. Under Operation Sagar Bandhu, Indian Air Force rescued several people, including critically injured patients.
Meanwhile, in Indonesia, 442 people have died and at least 600 have been injured due to the floods and landslides, while more than 400 are still unaccounted for. A video released by the National Disaster Mitigation Agency showed the extent of damage as entire neighborhoods can be seen submerged under a vast expanse of brown water.
Rescue efforts are hindered by bad weather and lack of equipment, slowing aid delivery to affected areas like Sibolga city of Indonesia. And due to this, there have been reports of desperate residents breaking into shops and stores to access food, medicine and other essentials, with some wading through floodwaters to reach them.
In Thailand, the death toll from one of the worst floods in decades have surpassed 170, while over 102 people are injured. While Thai government has declared an ex gratia of $62,000 for the victims, there has been growing public criticism of Thailand's flood response, and 2 local officials have been suspended over the alleged failures.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will be meeting his Thai counterpart, and they will be discussing bilateral ties and regional problems.
Now, WION's Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Sithan Sibil, had an exclusive interview with Thailand's Foreign Minister regarding the upcoming meeting. This is an excerpt. Listen to this.
Meet with your counterpart, the Indian External Affairs Minister, tomorrow. All these issues will be discussed. Any particular focus area that will be discussed?
Well, we will try to discuss all the issues that we consider to be important bilaterally, regionally, internationally. One issue which I think we have to discuss is the issue of the situation in Myanmar, because both of our countries share a common border with Myanmar. We're concerned about the instability in Myanmar. We want to see peace, stability, and unity return to the country. And so both countries, as neighboring countries, together with other neighboring countries, China, Bangladesh, and ASEAN, the ASEAN countries, we have to work more closely. We have to align our efforts to ensure that our efforts are going in the same direction.
India plans to start discussion towards the purchase of Russian fighter jets and a missile defense shield during President Vladimir Putin's visit this week.
And this is according to a Bloomberg report. It said New Delhi and Moscow have a special and privileged strategic partnership under which discussions for the purchase of Su-57 fighter jets and an advanced version of the missile defense shield S-500 are expected.
And according to the report of Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, which is an independent think tank, Moscow remains India's largest supplier of military hardware despite a significant drop in purchase of Russian weapons in 4 years ending 2024.
36% of India's imports came from Russia between 2020 and 2024 as against 55% in 2015 to 2019, that duration of time, 72%. 2010 to 2014, and France emerged as India's second largest supplier, followed by the US.
India's Defense Secretary Rajesh Kumar Singh said on Friday that India's defense cooperation with Russia is a long-standing one, and the nation does not intend to stop anytime soon.
India has over 200 Russian fighter jets and several batteries of the S-400 defense shield, which were used during the 4-day conflict with Pakistan earlier this year in May. People familiar with the matter, however, said talks to buy new Russian military equipment are unlikely to conclude during Putin's visit scheduled later this week.
Now, the Russian president will pay a state visit to India from on the 4th and 5th of December, his first since 2021. Putin last met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in person on the 1st of September in China on the sidelines of the SCO summit. Now, during the upcoming visit, Putin will be attending the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit and hold talks with PM Modi. President Draupadi Murmu will receive Putin and host a banquet in his honor.
And Bangladesh says that it expects India to extradite deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at the earliest.
But insists this issue alone will not hinder bilateral ties. The comment came from Foreign Affairs Advisor Mohammed Tauheed Hussain. While talking to reporters in Dhaka, he stressed that Hasina is now a declared convict and Bangladesh expects her repatriation as soon as possible.
Hasina was sentenced to death in absentia on the 17th of November by a special tribunal for crimes against humanity related to last year's brutal crackdown on student protests in Bangladesh. Those protesters and demonstrators and it was called the July Uprising, and they brought down her Awami League government on the 5th of August 2024, after which Sheikh Hasina fled to India. She had already been declared a fugitive by a Bangladeshi court.
Hussain said India needs time to adjust to the new realities under the Muhammad Yunus-led interim government, but expressed hope for improved ties. Dhaka recently sent a renewed extradition request through its High Commission in New Delhi under the existing treaty after the judicial process concluded.
Bangladesh says it may also seek Hasina's return through the International Criminal Court. New Delhi, in its latest statement, said it noted the verdict and remains committed to peace, democracy, inclusion and stability in Bangladesh, engaging constructively with all stakeholders.
In a separate development, the National Independent Investigation Commission has submitted its report on the Bangladesh Rifles mutiny that killed 74 people. The panel alleges direct involvement of Awami League and strong evidence of external forces.
It identifies former lawmaker Sheikh Fazlenur Taposh as the chief coordinator and claims the mutiny was carried out with the green signal of then Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The commission cites an utter failure of the army chief, police, RAB and intelligence agencies. It also criticized sections of the media.
Now, Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif has announced that the notification for the Chief of Defense Forces appointment will be issued in due course of time.
He said that the process has already begun, and this statement came after November 29th, which passed without any official notification naming the country's first CDF. In a post on social media, Asif said that Pakistan's Prime Minister is expected to return shortly, and then the process will begin.
According to reports, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is in London and is expected back on Monday. Shehbaz Sharif arrived in London on a private visit after concluding his trip to Bahrain earlier this week. He was received at Luton Airport by Pakistani officials and went to his residence in central London. The visit is described as personal in nature, but the trip, which was initially planned for 3 days, has been extended. This is adding to speculation in Pakistan.
Now, the CDF position was created by the 27th Constitutional Amendment in Pakistan, replacing the abolished chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee. Officials expected the CDF appointment to coincide with the end of the CJCSC role. Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir is widely expected to be appointed as the first CDF.
The November 29 deadline also marked the end of Field Marshal Asim Munir's original 3-year term as Army Chief. Some legal experts say that without a fresh notification, his term might have expired. However, a 2024 amendment to the Pakistan Army Act extended the service chief's tenure to 5 years and included a clause treating this change as permanent law. And this means no new notification is needed to extend Munir's term.
Opinions remain divided. Some say the tenure lapsed, while others argue that November 29th was not a legal deadline due to the amendment. Still, most security and legal experts agree that an official appointment for the CDF is necessary since its newly created role.
Under the 27th Amendment, the Army Chief serves as CDF for 5 years. Several security sources say the government must publicly appoint Munir as CDF.
Defence Minister Khwaja Asif hinted in his social media post that there was indeed speculation about the CDF notification. He called the speculation unnecessary and irresponsible. He added that there should be no room for any conjecturing. Switzerland has delivered a decisive verdict on a landmark proposal to tax the super rich.
Now, in a nationwide referendum, 78% of voters rejected a 50% federal inheritance tax on fortunes above 50 million francs.
The initiative pushed by the Young Socialists aimed to raise climate funding by taxing about 2,500 ultra-wealthy residents, roughly 0.03% of the population. But despite rising concerns over inequality and living costs, Swiss voters overwhelmingly turned it down.
The proposal faced strong political and economic pushback. Critics warned the tax would trigger an exodus of wealthy individuals, hurting investment and reducing overall tax revenue.
Now, the government argued the fallout could cost up to 4.4 billion annually, outweighing any gains. And for many voters, the idea of a 50% levy was seen as too extreme, even close to expropriation, as the finance minister puts it.
Now, the referendum comes at a time when several countries, including the UK, Italy, Norway, and Spain, are tightening taxes on wealthy individuals. But Switzerland, which already has one of the world's highest concentration of billionaires, has chosen to maintain its low tax model. UK's record millionaire exodus this year stands as a glaring example of the potential fallout of taking on the rich.
The vote also highlights a broader pattern. While public anger over inequality is rising, efforts to impose new taxes often collapse when economic risks are debated. With global competition for wealthy residents intensifying, Switzerland has made it clear it won't jeopardize its status as a safe haven for high net worth individuals for now.
Now, the battlefield is changing faster than ever, and it's not tanks or missiles leading the charge. Today, cheap, agile drones are rewriting the rules of warfare
and forcing armies to innovate or fall behind. On Germany's Baltic coast, NATO forces are testing a new generation of counter-drone weapons. More in this next report.
Battlefield superiority is no longer determined by sheer numbers or big, expensive military hardware. Today, access to cutting-edge technology has replaced sheer might as the differentiator for the world's armed forces. Recent conflicts like the war in Ukraine have made this abundantly clear. And the biggest game changer in modern warfare has been the use of unmanned aerial vehicles, better known as drones. Cheap, easy to assemble and fly, drones can be used effectively to remotely target an adversary and conduct surveillance. These machines are versatile, cost-effective, and capable of precise, deadly strikes. Not surprisingly, anti-drone technology has had to pivot away from using expensive missiles to defeat low-cost enemy drones. On Germany's Baltic coast, NATO and German forces recently conducted an exercise to check the military bloc's preparedness and effectiveness of its counter-drone technologies. At a military training ground, soldiers tested a range of systems including net-shooting hunter drones, specially modified rifles, and heavy machine guns, often augmented by aim assistance technology and advanced surveillance monitors. The aim was to showcase a layered defense that can thwart drones before they reach their targets. Soldiers demonstrated defenses against one-way attack drones as well as high-flying surveillance platforms. The Fortem Drone Hunter F700 was one of the key systems on display.
We have to ensure that the eastern flank has a defense in depth that allows us to not only protect ourselves from some of the drones that we've seen, but any drones that may be produced in the future. So we want to make sure that we have sensors in depth. We want to make sure we have effectors in depth to provide that deterrence, that persistent deterrence.
The exercise focused on targeting small aerial drones that are the most commonly deployed UAVs in modern warfare. The exercise tested the latest rifles, nets, and specialized monitors designed to identify, track, and neutralize unmanned aircraft in real time. The event also featured systems like the C0 Mark Apex rifle and target drone technologies used to test real-world responses. Troops fired from rifle-mounted setups and vehicle-based launchers to provide an accurate battlefield simulation. The event also highlighted an agile procurement model and demonstrated logistical resilience via on-site 3D printing of drone components, enabling rapid near-frontline manufacturing.
Right, over to sports. Virat Kohli rolled back the years for all his fans and himself and scored his 52nd ODI century, while Harshit Rana and Kuldeep Yadav, they shared 7 wickets between them.
And this as India beat South Africa by 17 runs to take a 1-0 lead in the 3-match ODI series. Since ODIs are the only format that former captains Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma now play, fans packed the JSCA International Stadium complex in Ranchi. Sent in to bat first, India lost Yashasvi Jaiswal early, but the stadium erupted as Kohli walked in at number 3. With chants of Kohli ringing around the ground, he started his innings with a boundary. Rohit and Kohli then took the game to the Proteas. The veteran added 136 for the second wicket before Marco Jansen trapped Rohit plumb in front for a 51-ball 57.
Kohli on 72 at the time then saw India lose 4 more wickets for just 39 runs, but he held firm and brought up his 52nd ODI 100 off just 102 balls. Now, this was Kohli's first ODI century since his unbeaten 100 against Pakistan at the Champions Trophy earlier this year. The ton also makes him the player with the most hundreds in a single format. Earlier, the record was jointly held by Sachin Tendulkar and Kohli. Tendulkar scored 51 centuries in Test cricket It was also Kohli's 83rd international ton, a tally that places him second only to Tendulkar's 100 international hundreds.
There was a brief pause in the match after Kohli reached his century as a pitch invader ran onto the field and touched Kohli's feet. The intruder was promptly removed, and then half a century from captain KL Rahul and Ravindra Jadeja's 20-ball 32 helped India set South Africa a target of 350 runs. All right, now let's take a look at what's making news in the world of entertainment. Jenna Ortega has made history at the 2025 Marrakech Film Festival. The 23-year-old has become the festival's youngest ever jury member. The Wednesday star joins a jury led by Can Pondo and Oscar-winning director Bong Joon-ho. Ortega says she is enjoying the experience and learning a lot. Other jury members include Celine Song, Anya Taylor-Joy, and more. The 22nd edition of the festival is currently underway in Morocco and will run until December 6th.
Spanish film The Good Daughter has created history at Estonia's Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival for the first time ever. One film has won both the Grand Prix and the Audience Award, and the movie dominated the 29th edition, which honored filmmakers across 6 sub-festival programs. The event took place from November 7th to November 23rd. The Spanish drama emerged as the biggest winner of the year.
Palme d'Or winner Christian Mungiu is gearing up for a return to the Cannes Film Festival in 2026. The Romanian filmmaker will debut his first English language film, Jord. Actors Sebastian Stan and Renate Rensve will star in the movie. Now they play a mixed Romanian-Norwegian couple who move back to the wife's childhood village with their children. The film marks Mungiu's return to directing after 3 years. The 57-year-old is currently attending the Marrakech Film Festival. All right, with that, we call a wrap to World DNA for today, and we leave you with some climate stories that have been making headlines across the world. Thanks for staying with us. Keep watching WION for this one.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. One planet, one mission, one platform. One step towards sustainability, one destination. Join us on Mission Sustainability 2025, Season 3. No action, not an option. December 2nd, 2025, New Delhi.
Hi, my name is Ashok Khosla, and I chair a group of organizations called Development Alternatives, based here in India, but working all over the world. And for the last 45 years, I have been in one way or another associated with the kinds of things that WION has been now pursuing. I think it's a wonderful thing for a global channel to be looking at and pursuing, because there isn't enough awareness about all the things we have to do to make the world a livable place